Hey everybody. So this video is about how to make box plots. And there's a lot of things that you need to do in order to make the box plot. So first of all, you take your original numbers and you put them in order from least to greatest. From there, you need 5 things. You need the minimum number, the maximum number, the median number, the one in the middle, the Q1 and Q3. Now, Q1 and Q3 I will explain when we get there, but let's go one thing at a time. So minimum, smallest number. So in this case, 71. Okay. Maximum number, the biggest number. In this case, 100. So median, you might have already found the median, but just in case, to get the middle number, the median, you just have to cross off all the numbers. You go from small, big, small, big, small, big, until you get the one number that's right in the middle. Okay. Now, if there's one number in the middle, even better. If not, if there's 2 numbers in the middle, like what I found here, then I need to find the average of those 2 numbers, the mean of those 2 numbers. So what I do is I add 86 plus 93. So that's 9, and then that is 17. Okay, so that's when I add those 2 together, and then I need to divide by 2 in order to find the median, the middle, because dividing by 2 of this number, because there's 2 numbers, will get me the middle, the mean. So median and mean both measure the middle, center. Okay, so 179 divided by 2, 16.8. And if you want to use a calculator, that's fine too. So 19, and then that is 9, 5. Okay, so the median is 89.5. And then I'm just going to verify with my notebook. 89.5, that's the median we found. Okay. Now, Q1. Q1 means quartile 1. Yes, you should write this in your notes. Quartile. So when you think of the word quartile, what kind of like root word is in there? What do you think of? Think of this. So you might be quarts, like in measurements, or I think of a quarter, kind of, right? There's 4 quarters and $1. So therefore, there are 4 quartiles. So we're going to be splitting up our data into 4 sections. So Q1, so if there's 4 sections, 1, 2, 3, 4. Q1 is the number that's going to be at the end of this first section. And Q3 is the number that's going to be at the end of this third section. So we're looking for specific numbers to show that area of the data. So in order to find the Q1 and Q3, we're looking at the original set of numbers that are in order. So my middle was 89.5, was my middle. Now, if the middle number, the median, had already been a number that was there, I didn't have to do all the math to do the division and everything. If it was a specific number there, then I would just use all the other numbers. But since the middle number ended up being a number that was not already written there as a number we had to calculate, This is the middle, and therefore it's separating the data into two parts right now. I have the first part of the data, the smallest numbers, and then I have the latter part of the data, all these bigger numbers at the end. So I want to split those sections into smaller sections. So for this first part of the data, so from 71 to 86, I need to find the middle of that part. So not of all the numbers, but just from the first number to the middle. And I'm not counting the official middle number. I'm counting all the numbers that came before it. So I'm going to find the median of those numbers. So to find the median, I'm just going to do what I did earlier. I'm going to cross off the smallest, biggest, smallest, biggest, smallest, biggest until I get to the middle. So gone, 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 gone. And then there's one number left, the 79. So that's my Q1 number. Okay. Now I need to do the same thing for the last part, the second half of the data. So crossing off. All right, 97. So I have the minimum number, the smallest number that's here with this data set, the biggest number that's here with this data set, the middle number, the middle of the smaller numbers, and the middle of the bigger numbers. So Q1, quartile 1, pretty much this is the end of that first quarter of data. And then this is the end of that third quarter of data. And we now draw it as what we call a box plot. So let me actually erase some things now, and I'm going to draw it up here. Okay, so first of all, I want y'all to use a ruler when you draw a box plot. I want the line straight. So you're drawing a number line. Okay. So your number line, the smallest part of your number line needs to be somewhere near here. And the biggest part of your number line needs to be a number somewhere near here. I say somewhere because, I say somewhere because I want equal increments on my number line. So I'm not gonna put the smallest number as 71 because that's kind of awkward. All these numbers, I rather count by like maybe 2s or 5s. I want to count by, because I want it to stretch across, but I want it to be equal. And I'm not going to go by ones. I'm not going to count from 71 all the way to 97. That's doing too much. So I'm going to go from 70 to 100 because that covers a little bit less than this, a little bit more than this. But I'm going to make sure it's even. So before I start drawing my lines, I'm going to test this theory out. So 70, 80, 90, 100. Okay, use my hand as a guide. You would use your finger as a guide on your paper. Okay. So 70, 80. Nope, that's not even. And keep in mind, I'm purposely not cutting this part of the video. So some of y'all might be annoyed that I'm taking this long, but I just want you to see that it's important to be accurate. Okay, so a little bit more, 90, and then 100. Okay, and then 75, 85, 95. Okay, not perfect, but close. Like, it looks neat. It's pretty much even across for the most part. Okay. So now that I have my number line, I'm gonna put dots to represent all these. Some people put lines instead. I just need a placemaker. So 71, and I'm putting this above the number line, similar to how you did the dot plot. So 71 is about right here, because it's like 71, 2, 3, 4. 71's about right here. Oops. Okay. 100, maximum 100. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, duh, I was looking at 97. So maximum's 100. Okay. Our middle is 89.5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 89.5 would be right here. Okay, 79. 79 is about right here. And then 97. So 7. Okay. I have my 5 points of data. Now, this was called a box plot, but you don't see a box yet, right? Well, I have to make the box. So the box is showing the middle part of the data. And another name for it is box and whisker plots. So you'll see why it's called whiskers in a second. Okay, so that's my box plot or my box and whisker plot. So the whiskers, if you think about a cat, right? So the whiskers are the lines right here at the beginning and the end. And then the box part is in the middle. So here's what this means. The lowest point of my data is here. The highest point of my data is here. The middle, the exact 50% middle of my data is the box. So this is, let me use a different color. So this is 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. So this is showing all 100% of our data split up in different ways into 4 different sections. So this section right here is Q1, but we label Q1 right here because this is the end of Q1. This whole section is Q2, quartile. Let me write the word quartile again, just in case you didn't write it in your notes. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So this is the end of quartile 2. This is the end of quartile 3. So all of this is quartile 3, but this is the end of it. So we label that as Q3. And then this is the end of quartile 4, the last part of the data. So you have a completed box plot when you don't have to put the percentages. I'm just doing that for your notes. So if you have not written this yet, write this in your notes. Okay, so you have a completed box plot when you have a point that shows the smallest part of the data. You have the point that shows the largest part of the data. Your middle line here shows a median. You do not need to label it as median, but as long as the line is there, people that read your box plot will know that that's the middle. And then you have this line here. For purposes of our class, I want you to label these as Q1 and Q3 so that you get used to calling it that, or quartile 1, quartile 3. But you have a completed box plot when you show all this information, and then you have this number line here so that it's not just a random box with lines. You need the number line so we know exactly where the numbers are. If your number line is much smaller and it's hard to read, you might even want to put the numbers there. So if you I think mine is pretty easy to read, but if you're like, I don't know, you can always put the numbers there. So you could say 71, you could say 100, You could say 89.5. You could say 79, and you could say 97. You need to be able to know what the numbers are, essentially. So that is a completed box plot. Now you might be asking, why the heck am I doing this? What is this gonna do for me? How does this help? Why am I doing this? Okay, so what box plots do is give you some important information about the statistics. For example, you see how this line at the end is shorter than this line at the beginning? That means my data is more spread out at the beginning. So that means not as many data points were in this area. There were more data points in the latter part of the data. So that tells me that. My middle number, if I think about my whole range, right? My range is from 71 to 100. My middle number is closer to 100 than it is to 71. And I can see that clearly here. My middle number is not in the middle of this number line. My middle number is to the right of the middle. So that means that 50% of my data is higher. 50% of my data lies in this area. And so if you're really drawing this for some data that you care about, that can give you some valuable information about this data. It can help you make decisions if it's something that you're experimenting with. So it gives you specific information. That's one of the reasons why we do a box plot. And there's so many other representations, like pictorial, graphical representations that you can do to help you figure out the middle, the range, all the things. I talked a lot. I hope this helps. Please write it in your notes if you have not yet. And have a great day.